live, and I guess I'm moderating. My name's Alex Popoff. This is the Veterans Action Council, and we're celebrating 1 year of advocacy and working to improve cannabis laws. Bear with me, like I said, first time doing this, but I guess I will start off is we'll start with Rico, actually, since Colin told me to be the first, the moderator for this evening, and he's gonna go
start out by saying aloha to ATN.
Straight up, I wore the Hawaiian shirt for ATN. Hopefully he's not watching us and he's watching sea turtles and shit.
I feel bad. I had a shirt with Abe Lincoln on surfing because we talked about surfing in our strategy meeting, but
nice.
I had to change. I got sweaty, but so I'll say we should start off by going over what everyone's favorite publication we've put out or activity or event that's happened over the past year. And I guess we'll start with Rico.
Well, I appreciate you, Alex, and I appreciate you being a good sport, jumping in here and moderating for ATN, who's out on his second vacation of the year. Must be nice. It's a beautiful thing. But like I said, I got his Hawaiian theme going on, so we're good to go. Favorite publication for like the green paper, followed up shortly thereafter by the UN intervention that we submitted through NCOD. That was epic and unexpected. The favorite event so far, top would be the United Nations, because it felt like a sleepover, and we were doing some significant, like serious stuff, but in our PJs, which I appreciated from home. Which I appreciate even more. But followed thereafter shortly was the AMVETS Alternative Healthcare Summit, and the amount of veterans that we had from V.A.C. representing on the panel. That would be my list off the bat.
Thank you, Rico. I'll go next. So like I was saying, I am fairly new, joined within the past month and a half or so. My favorite thing was a submission to the ONDC. I think that's really important, because if we don't speak up, if we don't say anything, then like we talked before the meeting started, like it's easy to go online and complain. It takes just a little bit more effort to actually send a letter to your lawmaker or send a letter to just anybody, and sending those emails and actually taking direct action like that is a much bigger deal than just like putting it out into the void online. But there's a place for that too. So I thought that was really good, and continuing doing that going forward is great. So who would like to go next? Aaron? Okay.
Hey guys, Aaron Plouffe here. It's the first time I think that might have came on live. I might have been driving home on the 405 usually. But you know, the thing or event that I like the most is certainly the green paper, in that it addresses a bunch of things that I've never really gotten into too deeply. But you know, when we had the virtual meeting with the United Nations organizations, I was sending some, at the very, very beginning, I was sending out questions ahead of time, talking about, you know, the benefits and medicinal properties of cannabis. And lo and behold, there's some people out in the world that don't really like cannabis. And they sent me some nasty grams back on email. Like, what makes you think that this is such a good medicine? And, you know, like doctors from other countries really getting into me about it. And I thought that was fantastic, because I knew what I know about the United States, but, you know, some doctor from Jordan, a few other people, just, you know, just some guy in California sending him an email, and he wanted to send some nasty gram right back. So I thought that was wild. And it really, really helped solidify the idea that on the international level, what Michael Krowitz brought up to the group, and to myself at least, is that there's nobody advocating up there except him. So happy to make sure that nobody gets overran, and you know, just happy to we got something moving, and it's like getting a lot of traction right now.
Thanks, Aaron. And anyone want to volunteer to go next?
I got it. I'll go after Plouffe Daddy. I mean, the fact that that you guys are still putting up with me, I think is a great accomplishment on all fronts. No, I think it has been an incredible year. I mean, especially with the way things are going. I mean, we've really taken advantage of the situation and the way that we're able to work together with and being on not getting into any type of heated arguments, and being able to go through how we want to go about things, and the collective mentality that allows us to be equals. And it's an incredible feat. You don't stuff like this doesn't happen every day. It's just in itself is an amazing accomplishment that we're able to recognize this incredible need that has been going on for way too long, and we're in it to win it. And it's a great thing.
Thank you. And Tony, would you like to go next?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Yeah, my favorite thing is just learning about all the veterans that's in the council, and how each one of us bring, a vast amount of experience in different areas in advocacy. And on an international level, Michael's brought so much to the group with, bringing knowledge of how things work on a United Nations level with the treaty, how all the nations control substance acts or based off this treaty. And it's just so mind-boggling, the eye-opening work that we're seeing unfold with us even taking part in the the action in Vienna in April. I hear Rico and I would get up at midnight here in Arizona, and that was 9 a.m. in Vienna, and we'd be in meetings from midnight on till early in the morning. And the Louisiana legislative session was starting that same exact week. So that Monday, when at 8 a.m. when Vienna was shutting down, I'd get online and broadcast meetings in Louisiana, to help out with their legislative session over there. So, we as a team, with all the advocacy experience that we all bring together on national, international, local level, and the background that we have on different levels, I think is really powerful. And I'm really excited to be a part of it and looking forward to continuing our work.
Awesome. And would anyone else like to volunteer next?
I think that it falls on me next if you want.
Sure.
I'm just so happy to be part of this group, really. It's funny, I've been working basically full time on volunteer time since the late 2007 2008 with Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access, and that has been a really amazing road, and it's hasn't been really very limiting. I mean, I was able to do quite a bit within that medical cannabis sort of umbrella, but what got me started in the first place was not just working on cannabis. I was into the VA hospital And I was focusing on pain treatment, which is mostly like opiates. And I recognize, if you guys remember the story, I recognize that those pain contracts would eventually become a huge obstacle for us as we ramped up medical marijuana. I'm talking about in the mid 1990s, right? And, that work against pain contracts is what led to the 2010 VA medical marijuana policy. But it's all about pain treatment. And it's funny, I remember talking to Ethan Nadelman. Some will remember him. He's a really great director of the Drug Policy Foundation, what's now called the Drug Policy Alliance. And Ethan, I'd go talk to him, and it'd be like, he'd be like, well, I can't really help you, with pain medicine, that's not my department. That sounds like legal drugs, he would say. And meanwhile, I'm working on medical marijuana, right? I go to medical marijuana, I bring that to the VA, and they're like, no, that's illegal. I can't talk about that here. So it's like, I'm literally caged in between two like forces that are, both saying no. And it reminds me of like, go ask your mom, and the mom says, go ask your dad, it's like literally caught between two universes, But I bring all this up and I tell you all these stories because without the Veterans Action Council, I wouldn't be able to do a lot of things that we've done this last year. I mean, it's well outside the scope of Veterans for Medical Cannabis Access. It's stuff we can support. It's stuff that, any veteran that I'm working with on medical marijuana is not going to have trouble with me looking into ayahuasca or looking into psilocybin or trying to come up with standards of treatment for, outings on these things, or supporting a vet that gets arrested because he was too damn comfortable, too damn open about his marijuana use, forgot where the hell he was. He was dancing outside his car in Texas, was it? No, where the fuck was he?
Alabama.
Worse than Texas, if there's such a thing. So forgot where he was, and we were able to work on that case, help him. I think we did help him. It was a strange road, but I think we did help him. And the documentation, this green paper we're talking about, it's not just a document. It's like a touchstone. It's like our effort to connect the past, the present, and the future. And I don't know why I get emotional sometimes, sorry. But it's done just that in real time. I mean, we've got partners, you're just seeing the 7 of us here on the screen, but we've got partners in this Veterans Action Council ranging up to, I'd say, 100 individuals at this point, with some real old timers that, they don't come to all our meetings and stuff, but they were there at the beginning when medical marijuana was a new concept. And man, it's, Al Byrne was just talking today. He's going to send you all an email because he's just blown away by the connectivity of it all. Like, all the veterans, John Zwirling, Roy Scherer, Dennis Perrone, Jack Hare, Todd McArea, Louis Armstrong, Timothy Leary, we're connected to everybody and everything. We're like taking a torch that was, kind of sitting there and nobody put any fuel on it or anything back in 1971. And we're going back and grabbing it and run with it. And it's amazing that we get to the United Nations and there's no roadmap. There's no roadmap for the world to follow to legalize weed. Right? What? What is that? So we're going to write it. We're going to write it. And it's funny, until you see something through somebody else's eyes, you don't really see it. We wrote our open letter to the UN, to the member states of the Commission on Narcotic Drugs of 53 countries, directly, and the 186 countries indirectly that get our mail at the highest levels of government. And it's sitting on the United Nations website right now. But I really didn't see that letter until I saw it through our buddy, Chris Conrad, West Coast Leaf. And he put it on a nice editorial sheet and threw it on the web for us under West Coast Leaf. And man, looking at that was like brand new. Like, it hit me so hard. I had a tear come to my eye from the document that we wrote and published and threw in the system. It's like, it's in there. It's embedded in the future. When the future looks back, they won't have to guess what we were doing. They won't have to figure out which side we were on. That's badass. And yeah, I'm just I'm amazed at where we are. I was on Kevin Zeese's website. He's another guy that started the same thing. He started that organization that Ethan Nadelman took over, the Drug Policy Foundation. It was started by Arnold Trebeck and Kevin Zeese. And I was on Kevin Zeese's website. He just died not that long ago. He wasn't that old. And I was writing on his website because he's got this foundation that was started in his honor for young activists. And I was saying, I feel like a brand new activist. I feel like a young activist. Even though I've been doing this shit for 25 plus years, I swear to you, I feel like a brand new activist because I'm in a completely new learning curves. The whole lay of the land is brand new. The world of possibilities that weren't there before. And I'm like, wow, time to really like retool, major retool. And that's where we're at right now. I'm on this council, Virginia's Cannabis Public Health Advisory Council, Veterans Action Council. We're working with the United States Cannabis Council, and a lot of councils have shown up lately. I think that's cool. That's got to be a sign. So anyway, much love, guys.
That is amazing. Appreciate that. Anyone else want to go on this topic before we move on to the next question?
Cyber hug.
Yeah, Michael, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for your efforts and all the efforts of everyone that you just named and more. So everyone who is using cannabis medically or even recreationally, it's your hard work and those that have gone before us, and yeah.
Completely agreed. I know we've talked before about this, Michael. I've met you. I know I'm new to Veterans Action Council, but I met you in a different path of advocacy. And I'm like, wow, this guy is an Air Force vet. He's on the international stage. It's a big deal, and it's really inspiring. And you talk about passing on the torch. Without people doing the work that you've done in speaking and writing and doing everything you've done, I don't know I'd still be involved because it's easy to burn out. You know, as passionate as we all are, it's tough. And it's really nice that there's been people like you that have done all of this. For all of you here that you know, I may not have ran into you individually before joining Veterans Action Council, but I'm thankful for what you all have done before, now, and will do. But Michael specifically, I know inspired me a lot. So does anyone else want to touch on this question before we move on?
Yeah, I'll just jump in here. It's the right thing to do to pay respects at this moment, it feels like, to our elders. Michael, thank you for the work that you've done, right? And a shout out to all the homies that you mentioned that aren't here, that didn't make it to see this. Michael Weiser in Arizona, another OG in the game from Arizona Normal. There's a lot of people that put a lot of themselves into this bloody road that we're on. And I'm in awe of what's been done and just kind of in pinch me mode at what's currently happening. And I'm just doing everything I can to just, focus on what's in front of us today. Cause like you said, it's intense, but I would like to think that we're doing them proud. I know we are, you know what I mean? And I'm really fucking proud to be doing it with you. And again, shout out to ATN. I hope he's all comfortable in his lounge chair with his feet up, smoking a doobie, taking a bunch of dabs. Yeah, luau. Yeah, that's what I got though. Big hug, much love.
Thank you, Rico. Anyone else? We'll say last call for this question.
Yeah, I just gotta give Robert Klowski a shout out too. He's not on, but he's the one that put the message together that brought us all together, and so it's something that has to. That's it, man. All it takes is a couple strikes of the keyboard and this beautiful little baby of ours has lasted a year.
Thank you. All right, we'll go on to the next question, and that is, what brought us to where we are? What keeps us here, and what are we looking forward to do most next year? I think it's probably going to touch on what we were just talking about a lot. Does anyone want to go first? All right, Aaron.
All right. You know, I just want to remember all the people that came before, because I just can't do it justice. But yes, like, take time. This one's easy. What brought me here? It's Pearson Robert Kennedy Crosby, because he's my boy, and he kept telling me about this group that he's part of, and I was like, yeah. Like, I've known him since probably like 2005 or so. So like
2005 or
I can't accept all of his invitations and stuff. So but eventually, like, I see the postings and I hear the stuff and I put it all together. So I came and I listened and I did it. But yeah, it's easy one, because the one thing that I know that Pearson has superpower over every other person in this universe is that he can find like incredibly talented people. So there's no question in the world about his ability to find talented people. But yeah, Pearson got me here.
Thank you, Aaron. Does anyone want to go next? Michael?
Yeah, man. I tell people I was drafted into this war, but I really am passionate about medicinal access, human rights. My dad, his best friend, my dad was Army Air Corps back before the Air Force was the Air Force. It was the Army's Air Corps, and he was in right at the end of World War II. He was in the Army Air Corps cadet program, and then the war ended and he got out. And I'm just giving you that to give you the time frame, the age of my dad. And my dad's best friend, his son was a Vietnam era vet, and suffered from horrible exposure to Agent Orange, and wasn't just satisfied to hear the VA say go home and die like a man or whatever they told him. He fought that, like a lot of vets fought that. And one of the first things I did as an activist was in a little volunteer job in Omaha, stuffing envelopes for Agent Orange activism, to get that recognized by the VA. And then since then, of course, there's a whole string of other exposure situations that need to be recognized by the VA, Gulf War syndrome, etc. And I tell people, if it wasn't for the stuff I'm doing, I'd probably work against mountaintop removal. Every time I think about, stuff to fight for, that seems to jump to the top of my mind. I'd be out there, chained to a tree or something. I don't know, stopping mountaintop removal if I wasn't a pot activist. But I feel like, and it was funny. I was talking to this reporter from the Roanoke Times, and she was doing a little story on some stuff here at the house and talking to me. And I was answering all her questions, and all of a sudden she had this aha moment, this light bulb went above her head. She heard me talk so lovingly about all these places around the world where you can get easy access to nice hashish and great bud and everything. And she realized I could actually be there if I wanted to. If it was just weed I was after, it was just getting high, that was all that was important to me. And I could be there and not here fighting this fight, so that it's sort of like voting with my feet, but that's the decision I made. I feel like I made the decision I can with the variables I've been given, and try to make, lemonade out of lemons. But it's been interesting. It's been very interesting to say the least. It's kept me, sharp in my old age, right? As I retire, staying as an activist has definitely given me a huge mental Rubik's Cube to work on. So yeah, there's that. I don't know, man. I don't know what I would do. I just, I can't watch other people suffer the same thing I'm suffering and then just go get a cure for myself. And I don't think any veteran, it's like one of the things I've gotten probably most consistently from other veterans across the country is that same sentiment. You know, I can't do that just for me. I can't just get something for me and be done. I need to make sure everybody, you know, not veterans or not, whatever, I'm not, you know, not leaving this battlefield until everybody's taken care of.
Thank you, Michael. Does anyone want to go next? And the question we're doing is what brought us to it, what keeps us in, and what are we looking forward to for the next year?
So I mean, what brought me into the V.A.C. is again, like that post Robert put out, tagged a whole bunch of peeps, and from there it was like a Facebook group or whatever, but it was just a buddy check. How's everybody doing? How are you handling this? What's going on? Everybody all right? Need any help? Want to talk to anybody? And then a whole bunch of us were like, well, yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to see somebody, you know what I mean? And so from there, it was just like, what's up? And then it was like, well, what are we doing? And then all the other action took place. But what keeps me in it is just, you know, I haven't been in this over as much as long as Michael has or Etienne or others, but I'm pushing a decade, still feel like a baby in the fight, learning new stuff every day. It's just like, man, I don't know anything. And then when you think you got a grasp on it, something new comes out, it's like, oh. So I like learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So this doesn't disappoint. And it gives me plenty of research material, plenty of interesting people to talk to. And if you're into conspiracy theories, it's like it's a really good one because it's true. All this weird, fucked up shit that the government's been doing to keep this under wraps and obstructed or whatever. And the more you learn, you're like, no way. And then you like, again, you learn more and you're like, well, what the fuck? And then it's like, well, why? Like Mr. Plouffe Daddy said, it just seems so simple, man. It really just, it seems so simple. But then you have our neighbors up north who are very reasonable. Shout out to Mr. Victory. And you have our contemporaries, our counterparts in Australia that we just met with, who are amazing. And it was fantastic to get on that call and then just watch them all pop in. Like, good day, mate. Good day, mate. Good day, mate. Good day, mate. And it was just amazing. And so I'm so excited to work with them in the future, tag teaming with our allies from across the world at the United Nations just seems like the right thing to do. And I'm looking forward to building some amazing friendships, having some really amazing memories to take with me to the grave, and knowing that I fucking did something. Like Michael said, like you're not gonna have to guess where we were here. You know what I mean? Like this, it's very clear. We've been a little bit outspoken. It's on the record. So fuck yeah, man. Shout out to 2122. Here we come. That's what I got on that.
Thank you, Rico. Anyone want to volunteer for next? Aaron, thank you.
You know, the things that keep me here is, you know, the access to be able to make changes for stuff, something that I really care about. So, you know, based off of, you know, all the things that I picked up, you know, I went and looked at my VA record and there's 85 prescriptions. And that's over, you know, I got out in 2007. So for any number of reasons, you give you a prescription and we've managed to get it down to one now with the use of cannabis and with going surfing and mindfulness and a bunch of other things. So it's awesome, you know, like if it wasn't there, I don't know how we would do it, but you just gotta get rid of the pills, like no matter what. But, you know, I'm really concerned about the future because of the divergence of medical and recreational. So like, I'm also here because I'm worried more about the Second Amendment being influenced by some fucking plant. But other than that, like there's a lot of good work that's being done, and there's lots of places to provide good work, like getting the word out and talking. But yeah, I also want to say that I got my buddy Travis to come, so I want to shout him out. But he probably didn't realize we were going to be live on Facebook and chit-chatting, but I appreciate coming, dude. Thanks.
Pop quiz, hot shot.
No, I Travis and I worked in 29 Palms. So he's a friend of the group.
Sweet.
Well,
Nice to have
Travis,
you.
would you like to say something? I think we might have lost him. Camera
I
shot.
just turned his video.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone want to go next on what brought us here, what keeps us here, and what are we looking forward to for next year, for this year? Yeah. I can go. Okay, so what brought me specifically to V.A.C, Veterans Action Council, was my friend and mentor, Brett Puffenbarger. He brought me in, and I've been active intermittently since then and been more active lately. But what really brought me into cannabis and what keeps me in was my firsthand experience, and then through that, learning from others, and through doing advocacy. And personally, it was through having a lot of back surgeries, getting out of the military. Most of us have back pain, and they don't really take it serious. Or in my case, I had surgery, and it made things worse. And then another surgery made it worse. And then since I've been out, I've been able to use cannabis, and I've recovered faster. I'm able to work. I'm able to do a lot more, and my quality of life's better. And then through doing advocacy, even from you guys mentioned a lot of the OGs from this fight, even just on the local level, meeting like MS patients and people that are fed through tubes and wheelchairs, and they can't even really speak for themselves. And when you go you have to ask permission to have cannabis in your local municipality. It really is it's kind of fucked up, because you're like, this person is dying and they just want to use this plant legally. They're going to get it anyways if they know people, but not everyone has connections like that. Decrim's not enough, and that's what keeps me in, is that, like Michael touched on, and it's something that we're all very emotional about, is that when you lose people and you've experienced real pain, whether PTSD or chronic pain or other issues, it keeps you in the fight, because you don't want other people to suffer. It's easy to just take care of yourself, but it's important to be in the fight, and because you don't want others to have to go through the steep learning curve. Like, we're all learning, and you guys have been in this for decades, and there's new research on this plant all the time. There's been a lot that's been stifled by Schedule I, all the BS we all know. But what I'm looking forward to is trying to see the end of this, and I realize I'm fortunate being newer into the movement, but a lot of people, it's been a long uphill battle, and I'm looking forward that this does look like the end, because people said the same stuff in 71, like Michael also said, and maybe they didn't push enough. Oh, it's only temporary Schedule I. Oh, it's going to be legal. And then back in the 90s and 80s in Southwest Florida and Southeast Florida, people thought it was going to be legal, and guess what? The IRS did not think it was going to be legal, and we have a long way to go. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, is the end of that, because there's a lot of people that need to be out of prison, and there's a lot of people that should have access to this plant that don't even know about it because they've been lied to about it. So it's something that I'm passionate about. Who would like to go next?
Sorry about that. Can y'all hear me now?
Yep, you're good.
I appreciate. I'm sorry, I had a malfunction I had my cell phone calling as well, but just to piggyback on what Aaron said, I came here because of him. He has sent me he talks about how much he's received from Pearson, but I'll probably receive, I don't know, half of what he's getting if he's talking about that much from him, just advocating for this group and talking about how much work y'all have done over the last year. And he speaks really highly of you guys and thinks highly of you all. And so to be able to join a group that's this passionate about veterans' health and benefits, it's becoming more and more part of my heart and my direction. And so, just having somebody like Aaron taking that guide on and running with it, and then being able to join you guys, I really feel like I'm in the right place, and hopefully we can work together and get somewhere in the future. So, but my name is Travis Carroll, and so I'm just happy to be here with you all.
Thank you, Travis. Appreciate it. Pearson, you'd like to?
Yeah. No, I guess I get to give Plouffe Daddy some bro love back to back. Put him on a hot seat and get him blushing a little bit. But no, I mean, as much as highly as he spoke of me, I mean, I don't know if I would have been able to survive after I got out, let alone in, if it wasn't for his efforts. I mean, just all around. Whenever I bring Plouffe Daddy up, I always refer to him as my mentor in the Marine Corps. And yeah, no, and that is no lie. It was just complete, professionalism and forcing us to do better than we knew we could or thought we could. And I guess I'm stubborn enough to run with it and try to really do the best I can. But it really, I mean, shit, we slept next to each other for 3 or 4 months in the desert, not even talking about how much training we had to go through together, the endless swamp training to just go to Iraq. It was, yeah. But no, I mean, it has been nothing but I've always had the luxury of being able to, really have someone to rely on that won't sugarcoat the shit and tells it how it is. And if you don't have somebody like that, in your life, it's unfortunate, because I'm lucky that my existence, and I mean, even my VA claims, I probably wouldn't have even gotten that shit started if it wasn't for him. So that's how I'm able to be here. And with that, I've learned that, I mean, I've attempted to help so many people over the years, and realize that, for every 100 that are willing to take a chance and listen to my story and possibly turn their life around or make it a little bit better, I'm lucky if one succeeds in that, but that one person just amplifies and just exponentially helps people, that so many more. And then, every 1 out of 100 today, they get to turn around and are successful with it. It makes it all worthwhile, because It's not an easy thing that we do, but it's so necessary. And that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Pearson. We'll move on to the next question, which is,
If you don't mind,
go ahead. Yeah, sorry, go
I
ahead.
just wanted to throw one last little thing in. I don't want to take up too much time, but it just strikes me, that we made a couple of very conscious efforts in the council. One was to be a council of equals, that there wouldn't be any hierarchy. Everybody speaks as a representative of the council, and everybody is responsible for the actions and the security of the council, and everybody weighs in on anything that we're going to do as a council. And the second thing was that we wouldn't have any limitations on what we do. We'll do whatever, go where the wind takes us, wherever our membership needs the power of our guild, we're there. And we have, like I said, maybe 100 veterans that have participated and joined the council, and may not attend meetings all the time, but we've set up sort of this virtual space, really old style oak round table, and we're the knights at this round table. And for those that sit at the round table every day, it's a kind of a 3-day-a-week thing that we've gotten into now, and it's really cool. It's like, you can do that. I mean, it's within your power to do that. Every member of the council has within their power to be, sitting at the table holding the sword, or waiting for the word from those who are, and act on it, or to bring to the council's attention at any moment urgent need. And it's just fucking cool, man. So, if you want to know what we're going to do next, I don't know. And that's what's so cool about it. And that's why I'm going to be here, because I don't know what's next. And I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I'd like to say something what brought me here too. I didn't put my 2 cents in, but we're all in our own respective, states, or I like to think of us as managers or thoroughbreds in the advocacy world. We all accomplished some great things already. And my experience in advocacy is only about 3 years old, but I've seen at the very beginning, when you're up there at the Capitol advocating in some committee, criminal justice committee, or a health and welfare committee trying to push a cannabis bill through, when you look around, there's not a whole bunch of people there sitting next to you. There's not a whole bunch of people doing this work. For many different reasons. Some people are working full-time jobs. They have responsibilities, their families. They can't get involved like we do. Many of us are disabled veterans, myself included, where we have some time on our hands, and we see the need. The VAs have been giving us these pharmaceuticals for 50-something years now, or longer, and we know that what it's doing to us. And so what we see the need for this, for somebody to do it, so it's very powerful when you can put your needs and wants behind, and keep a goal, a common goal amongst veterans that we're going to get this done. We're going to get it done. Just few people are going to get this done, and for future veterans not to have to fight the government for access to a simple plant that's a healing plant that's made for our bodies, the endocannabinoid system, and our body's made for this plant, So it's very powerful when you focus all these guys together, all that energy that's bouncing around out there in the universe, and you put it into one solid beam of energy and focus in on whatever issue we go after. We're the Action Council. We can take any issue and go after it. And when you focus all that knowledge and experience behind and calculated action, it's effective, and it can change the lives of millions of people. Just a few handful of people get behind a certain legislation to make it pass through state capitol. So that's why I'm in it. And if you're out there listening and you want to take action, the action can be simple as one email, but in a combined effort with everybody else, it's a powerful email. And it's not going to put you on the radar with some people concerned, with their community standing, their church or their law enforcement, don't want to get on the radar. But, this work is really something that needs to be done. We have to take initiative to change these laws and stop this mess that this is a black stain. This drug war is a humanitarian crisis that we're in, and any kind of effort you can join in is going to help out a lot. So that's why I'm here. I'm in it for the long haul.
Thank you, Tony. Aaron, you wanted to go?
Yeah. Thank you, Tony. I love listening to when you start rolling. But you mentioned common goals and like just things that we have in general, right? California, Arizona, Alaska, Florida, Ohio, Georgia, right? Travis, unless he moved, is still in Georgia, and like that's a new place. We don't have anyone that, you guys might know some people, but it's the network's only getting stronger. But the common goal, like you mentioned, we talked to Australia, we talked to Canadian veterans. There's other countries. And when we talk to the veterans from other countries, it's the same. I thought those people from Australia had been listening into our conversations for 3 months. It just sounds different because they have an accent. That's the only difference between what veterans in Australia are going through than what we're going through, is they have an accent. And it's the same. So there's the commonality is like the scope of it is really, it's around the whole world. So I'm sure there's some, I'm sure there's veterans in other countries, other states, but at some point, like you can help out one way or another, but this is a great place to put that time.
Thank you, Aaron. I'm sorry I skipped you, Tony, and on this first round. Did anyone else want to touch on this first question? Robert, would you like to answer our first question? It was on what brought us here, what keeps us here, and what we're looking forward to for the next year.
Oh man, what brought us here, what keeps us here, and what are we looking forward to in the next year?
Basically what brought you to Veteran Action Council. Well, you started it, and what's keeping you here and what you're looking forward to most for this year.
Well, what brought me here is I got tired of trying to do things on my own, and I really wanted to bring some people together that I knew that were movers and shakers, hoping that people would feel the same way. I got lucky in that Rico and I really put our heads together and we're like, this sounds like a great idea. Let's reach out to our networks. And all of a sudden, that network turned into this amazing group of people who really have shot this much further than we could ever have imagined, I would assume. Having a group of guys that I could reach out to and call on, knowing that I had my support, is kind of what's kept me here. I love working with all of you. I like that y'all like to get shit done and don't like to beat around the bush with it. So that's really what keeps me driving, keeps me going, and that's what I'm looking forward to getting done next year.
Thank you, Robert. All right, I guess I'll do like last call for this topic. If anyone else wants to say anything or answer that question.
I mean, I gotta speak if you're saying last call, but that's it. I'll pass.
All right, sounds good. So the next question would be, what does an ideal cannabis program look like to you? And it's pretty broad. You know, there's city ordinances, county ordinances, state, federal. You can be as broad or as specific as you like, I guess, and we'll just keep it however long you want on that. Does anyone want to go first on this topic? Michael, I think you're very qualified on this one. I love.
You know what? I guess hopefully you can hear me okay. Let me know if I'm not coming through okay. But yeah, you know, there was a club that we were working with. Patients at a time was doing a conference in Santa Barbara, California, and a local club that actually called itself Horta Farm didn't even know that there was already a Horta Farm in Amsterdam. Honestly, they didn't know it until I told them. But anyway, what they were trying to do was create sort of a Chinese apothecary model dispensary, and with a super knowledgeable bud tender with literally hundreds of drawers behind the bud tender full with different varieties of cannabis from different growers and different places and everything. And that kind of model, you know, the Chinese apothecary model, carrying with it even tribal customs and indigenous peoples' customs that are from traditional and complementary medicine that's from all over the world. Those two things, like ancient things, like African and Chinese, you know, ancient history basically combined, is the model we want. And we're not going to get it. I mean, you know, be realistic, we're not going to get that. But how close we can get to it is the question. And how much we can maintain of that style of access in the face of pharmaceuticalization is the question. And there's so much nuance to it. I mean, we're dug into, you know, what do the different schedules mean? How do we deal with this with the VA and the FDA and all these other A's? And I think it's really going to be our challenge. Is we're the ones who know. We're the ones who are still touching the past, and through us, you know, old timers at least, you know of cannabis that's truly extraordinary that will reemerge. Stuff that you read about, hear about, and old records, Panama Red and Acapulco Gold, and you know the what is it, Saigon Red, and you know, even more close to home, Gainesville Green and Humboldt Green and Hawaiian Rainbow. And, you know, these are varieties and things that are outdoor grown, extraordinary, well beyond the scope of anything you can grow indoors. And that's what we want. We want that all to be available with the indoor bud. I mean, indoor bud's great. That's where you'll get a lot of the great, probably oils and stuff, you know, in our future marketplace. So it all has to have a place. It all has to have a place in that marketplace that we're going to create. And it's a super big challenge for us. And I'm giving a sketch and no answers because we don't have any answers yet. Right now, we're trying to figure it out. The best we can do is try to work with what we got in the States while we try to navigate the feds while we get them up to speed, because they go from 1971, where they outlawed medical cannabis, said it had no medical value. Then they have to jump to 2021. Man, talking about getting somebody caught up. I learned more in the last 6 months than I could probably teach somebody in 2 hours. So think about getting them caught up for the last 50 years. This is going to be an amazing project for us. And medical cannabis, I'll tell everybody right now, medical cannabis is something that isn't really being thought of that much, you know, because of that, because the federal government and a lot of the power brokers don't know anything about medical. And all they know is, oh, we're going to legalize it. Okay, whatever. It'll be in a store. You have access. They don't know that there's a difference between medical access and regulated adult access. And man, you got a heavy lift. So anyway, I think that's my vision, is to preserve that huge variety and get that in front of the consumer in such a logical way. That's what we gotta do.
Thank you, Michael. I totally agree. I'm going to go just short and sweet because I out in Oklahoma, it's not perfect, but a lot of the problems we're seeing out here, in my opinion, are from the other states' ineptitudes, because Kansas, Texas, Louisiana, they don't have a program. Supply and demand. I mean, people that need access to cannabis, people that want access to cannabis, and people that are profit driven alike are all going to do what they need to do to get cannabis. That's just, I don't know, it's nothing new, but you can't blame Oklahoma for having a good program for other states having a bad program, in my opinion. It's just, and I don't think, and Oklahoma's trying to get stricter, but in my opinion, it's one of the best examples. They do have testing requirements, and they do have home grow, and it costs $2,500 for a license. For retail, same price for cultivation, process, waste removal. Lowest barrier to entry I've seen in the world. I don't know, unless it's free, unless you can get a free license, or it's less than 2,500 US dollar. It's one of the most easy to enter markets, and it also allows patients to grow 6 plants, immature, 6 mature, so you can have 6 in flower and 6 in veg, basically, which is very permissible compared to other places. To me, that's an ideal program. And I mean, it's not dominated by big business. There's a lot of mom and pop businesses now. It's hyper competitive, but so is the restaurant industry. Looking at it from a patient's perspective, it's ideal because you can grow your own, and you can choose from thousands of different processors, cultivators, and retailers. So if you don't like something, you don't have to go there. But if you're in one of these vertical markets, you're pretty stuck. You can't choose. You can't vote with your dollar unless you have a good gray market, legacy market connection. And that's a gamble for people. That is a way you could, in theory, lose your benefits. If you buy bulk, then you're taking a big risk. So if you get affordable meds on the illicit market, you're taking a big risk because of the weight restrictions. So, and Oklahoma's decriminalized reasonable amounts too. So even if you're not a patient, if you have a medical condition. So I think this is a really good approach if it were only to be medical federal, because we have no idea what federal landscape is going to be. So yeah, and Oklahoma is a very red state, but this was a citizens ballot initiative, and they as one of the authors told me, Chip Paul is his name, bless him for writing State Question 788. He said we steamrolled them. They overran the government with this initiative, and it passed, and now they've been trying to reel it back as much as they can, but they can't. And it's really because a community of small businesses has come together. And to me, that's what an ideal legalization worldwide would be, is something that's open for basically anybody. So we shouldn't have to have these programs that have all these promises that don't deliver. That's what I think. Would anyone like to go next?
I would. I'm gonna shit on it a little bit. Like, hats off to Oklahoma, but I want to put a reminder out that it wasn't too long ago that they tried and were working really hard to put Mr. Christopher Lewandowski in prison for life because he had some plants and he had run afoul of their prohibition law, right? And very roughly, him and his family, for a long period of time. That was recent. And it was through the work of a lot of advocates and pro bono lawyers and generous people who donated to their GoFundMe account to help the family through that time while he was incarcerated, that allowed them to, get through that situation and make it to state territory.
It's bad, and it's I think it's the highest incarceration rate in the US per capita, which is very bad. However, it's good that they're improving the cannabis laws, but yeah, it's pretty bad. I don't even know if they had the medical necessity exemption like Florida, which I'm sure Michael could speak to. If you want to go ahead, Michael.
What about the Florida policy?
How at least I shouldn't say at least, it's not a great policy. You still get arrested and go through hell, but they have the medical necessity for medical cannabis growing if you have a medical need and you can articulate that in court. But I don't even know if Oklahoma had that pre-legalization.
Yeah, no, not before. It's interesting, the little carve outs that we've been able to make as activists. That's definitely one of them. Where in Florida, that was hard fought legal challenges that created a very straightforward pattern to follow to state a medical necessity argument. And we have some very prominent patients that have led the nation from Florida, Irv Rosenfeld, L.B. Musica, oh gosh, I'm trying to think of her name, is, has lived longer with ALS than any other,
Kathy Jordan.
Kathy Jordan.
Yeah, she's been
So,
smoking joints and she's, yeah.
and while I'm on that, I guess I should just throw in, just for fun, Alaska was one of the best, with the Raven decision, led the whole nation for a long time. And it's been funny how the ball gets passed around, like for a while, this state's leading. I mean, to be being led by the pack, I have Oklahoma leading the pack now is truly surreal. But yeah, that's the way it works.
Yeah, there's no medical condition list either. Like where Florida, there's like these very strict lists, and then there's like kind of a catch-all that's the way doctors interpret it. And then as we all know, doctors can recommend cannabis but can't prescribe it. In Oklahoma, there's no qualifying conditions. It's how, in my opinion, how it should be. The doctor determines and they recommend it because Xanax, pain meds, stimulants, anything, there's a lot of off-label uses, and they just pump them out with those off-label uses. And it's not like the FDA did not approve the drug for that use, and it can be even a Schedule II that's very dangerous, but it's off label, it's okay. So I think it's how it should be with cannabis. And Tony, you want to go now? Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to see us confront, some of the issues we're having right now with opiate overdoses and all. On a national level, the National Board of Medical Examiners is responsible for educating these doctors and mandating that they know about the endocannabinoid system, and that cannabis can be used as an alternative to these opiates and help some of these deaths in the country. That's a responsibility Board of Medical Examiners is slacking on. In every state, say for instance like Louisiana, they have it. The Board of Medical Examiners guide for therapeutic cannabis is like just if the doctor wants to use it, he can do this or whatever. But I think all the states, with especially, it looks like a prolonged crisis that we're in with opiate use and overuse and overdose, and it's just the surge in fentanyl seizures at the border. There's no end in sight. And cannabis as an alternative medicine to opiate use is proven to work. And I think that it's the responsibility of the nation's doctors to come together and make sure that all the nation's doctors have full knowledge of the endocannabinoid system and how cannabis calms some of the inflammation that they're prescribing these opiates for, and it's killing people. So we need to work on that. And then with law enforcement, they're looking at addiction and stuff as a punitive issue. It's something that they can punish out of people. After 60 years of doing this and building the biggest prison system in the world, something got to tell somebody it's not working anymore. This is not working. We're going to address this as a health issue and treat people for addiction, not lock them up and cause more. Because what we're doing is we just generational cycle of people going into prison and coming out, and it's not going to work. It's not working, and it's causing a lot of blowback right now. You're seeing law enforcement officers getting shot, first responders getting shot in the street. That is blowback from the drug war. People are just... They have no hope left, and they just responding with violence, So until we look at what we're doing and try and do something different, it's not going to change. And that's the way to change it: education, educating the law enforcement on breaking that stigma down, that they need to punish people for addiction and all those things. That's what we're going to work on next, and we're going to get it changed.
Thank you, Tony. Anybody like to go next? After the mic drop.
Yeah, I'll go. Yeah, it's good. So I won't sound so extreme with my. This is going to sound extreme, but I would like to see, the individual not being extorted for the medicine and ending the systematic kidnapping and thrown in cages for the individual consenting, not even consenting, as someone that is literally attempting to take control of their life and better their life without going and kissing the ring, per se, which costs hundreds of dollars. You're forced into having to have medical insurance, and we have the luxury of utilizing the vehicle. Luxury. We were built up with this belief that we're going to war for a decent reason in a place that people actually deserve to die in, and more civilians were tortured and we're just it is so unfortunate that we allow individuals to have more power in some way than the actual individual has the ability to control their own life. We are subjected to countless things that are so much more dangerous than something that by itself has never had anyone overdose, destroyed families in any way that the stuff that we can easily get at the local grocery store has done. The max speed in America is 85 miles an hour, but we can go buy cars that'll go 200 miles an hour. But we can't go buy prescription glasses without a doctor. The irrationality behind what we're fighting for, and it's so it blows my mind. I mean, I do say this a lot. I'm sick of having to fight for people to be allowed to take control of their lives and have a chance, or the on the off chance that cannabis actually works for them. And a lot of times it does. At least it's something that they could attempt to utilize without the fear of armed people kicking in their door, kidnapping them from their family and throwing them in cages because one day, because this day right now, in the imaginary line that somebody sets, it's illegal and immoral. Yet a couple days later, it can be signed into law, which now makes that action moral somehow, that because a group of people came together and decided that it's okay to do it then, and but you still have to, how many times have you heard somebody say, yeah, I would love to be able to medicate with cannabis as much as I'd like to, or I feel I need to, yet I can't afford this plant. I can't grow this plant that is, I mean, it's not hard, but it's not that easy, but it ain't that hard to do, to grow cannabis. Yeah, it costs a little bit of money, but if you got sun and a little bit of soil, it's manageable, but it takes time. But you can easily go get Oxycontin for a lot cheaper. I mean, I never paid for Oxycontin, fentanyl, Klonopin, sleeping pills. I've never paid a dime for them, and I was on them for years. My VA medical record is 596 pages long. I just downloaded it the other day. It's something that, like, what are we thinking? Like, how do we allow this as human beings? As you know, we're, and it's not. That's just human nature. That's how we survived as a collective group, and we always. It sucks when you don't feel like you're a part of the group, and that's how we've survived over these years. Is how the saber-toothed tiger didn't kill us all off, you know. We're able to be as one in a group, a super organism per se, but it's not going to change overnight. And I want this to continue. I want us to continue to fight long after cannabis is regulated, to our satisfaction, to the world's satisfaction, to the humankind, and then take on the next stupid, irrational battle and try to make the world better in that manner also.
Thank you, Pearson. I don't think that sounds extreme at all. That's how I feel as well. Does anybody, Rico, you want to go?
Yeah. I mean, as far as like what my ideal cannabis program or access looks like, I don't know. I grew up getting it from the homie down the street, and whatever he had was good enough for me. You know what I mean? And then just kind of keep my head right. But it's where we're at now is so far beyond just that. We're already past my expectations of what was possible. So I'm just like, well, let's ask for specifics now. And that's what we're doing. I look at what we're doing with the green paper and stuff. I feel like that's us, not just talking about, oh, well, you know, fucking fantasy land, this and that. What do you want to, you know, get when, you know, Santa comes? You're like, no, fuck that. We got our lock picks. We know the procedure now, this and that, blah, blah. We know who to go and who to talk to. And we've broken down the barriers and the obstacles and stuff like that. And we've learned their tricks. You know what I mean? So they claimed the war on drugs. And what you're looking at now is the insurgency of said war on drugs. We are here to beat that shit. We are going to be able to claim victory at the end of this, right? For our Constitution, for ourselves, for our neighbors, for our future, and hopefully, right, be able to keep a check on this silly stuff. You know, these laws, these arbitrary laws that are unconstitutional, that just because somebody's a wordsmith, they're good at bullshit, they look nice in a tie, clean shaven, they seem trustworthy, they smell nice. Why the fuck would they lie to me, right? They make you feel good. They give you compliments, especially when they want your votes. Who doesn't like a little flattery, a little smoke? Not cannabis smoke, the other kind that goes up the rear end. So it's one of those things where we're done, I feel, projecting about what it is that we want. We put forward what it is that we're claiming as part of our contractual agreement as veterans of the United States military who have gone out and completed our oath, our obligation, still living that through civic engagement, community service, and working with the laws that we have to address and redress the grievances that we put forward. We're not just coming to bitch, we have solutions, or what we feel are potential solutions, at least they're conversation starters, from a real world applicable level, not the fear-mongering approach of Kevin Sabet and Sam and these other goons, Laura Vocal, whatever, these goons, right? And they know what they're doing is wrong. We know what they're doing is wrong. We have the evidence that what they have been doing is wrong. And we're going to put that forward. This next year is going to be interesting. I'm looking forward to lobbying with the National Cannabis Industry Association, right? Sometime next year in May or so. See if we can't flood the halls of a bunch of veterans that want to have a conversation about how things are going, how cannabis has helped them, what they're looking forward to as far as access is concerned. Is we're like how many people are on here now? 8. There's only 8 of us here. There's a whole bunch of us out there. And each one of those have individual voices that deserve to be heard. Yeah, we found a nifty little YouTube channel and ability to post and go on live, but there's nothing special about us other than we are just determined about this work. We're passionate about it. We're sincere, right? And we're not going to give up. We are the resilient ones. So that's where I'm coming from at it. But yeah, this next year's going to be fun.
Thank you, Rico. Any volunteers for next? And this topic was what does an ideal legalization look for you? Like, basically, what do we, if all of our goals go good on this current mission that we're on, you know, because as we say, we're Veteran Action Council, it's not just veterans in cannabis. So what does the ideal cannabis legalization look like? What's that hurdle we're getting over? You, Aaron?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Like, I think one pretty easy one is that, you know, a veteran of the United States who uses the Veterans Health Administration, they can drive from sea to shining sea and get access to cannabis on all the stops, right? Like, I think that's like a real simple, easy one. So, you know, we're not going to create a disadvantaged class of veterans based on where they live, knowingly, even worse, you know. So I think that that would be something ideal. And I don't think it's like, you know, a stroke of a pen could make that happen today, right? Well, maybe it's almost 5:30 in California, but maybe tomorrow.
Thank you, Aaron. Does anyone want to go next? Tony, go ahead.
Yeah. I'd like to see not only cannabis, but other plants. You know, we're all fighting for cannabis access for veterans, of course, you know, but some of the other plants, psychedelic plants, are being used to treat even more serious emotional trauma that veterans experience. And it's been over 50 or 60 years since they've had some, you know, breakthrough in pharmaceutical therapy for these ailments, and psilocybin and you know, ayahuasca, all these you know, natural plants. We should recognize, you know, like Michael was saying earlier, that there's a native, you know, recreational or a medicinal use that the native indigenous people used for centuries, you know, and we shouldn't, you know, say it's okay for a pharmaceutical company to take those compounds and make something that becomes unaffordable for those indigenous people to access it, and then call them a criminal for accessing it, you know. So we have to work on you know, some kind of, if it's going to be a regulated system, where you can have some kind of little small home garden footprint, you know, and sell at the farmer's market if you want to sell just a little bit of cannabis that you grew. But if you start selling some bunch of bales of it, you need a bigger license. You need to buy into the regulated system a little more, you know. That's just the way it's going to be. But as far as making it so expensive that you just eliminate access to the market or to the medicine is not sustainable. And I'd like to see all the plants be addressed, you know, along with cannabis, and stop, you know, allow decriminalization to where this ancient knowledge can be used in the community again and treat some of these overdose and suicides we're having right now. It's really a crisis, and we need to make these plants available because they work.
Thank you, Tony. Would anyone like to, Michael, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's interesting that my answer here, I think, would vary quite wildly if I was living somewhere else. If I was brought up and lived in Panama, or if I was brought up and lived in Thailand or whatever. But I'm in the United States, and although the United States wasn't the driving force of the international treaties in the beginning 100 years ago or whatever, we've definitely been very, very strongly responsible for pushing these policies for the last 50 years, at least since Nixon, right? And we've had really bad impact on a lot of places around the world. And that vision I was talking about before, where we could have a dispensary you can go into in Virginia and have Northern California bud right next to Panama Red, real Panama Red, right? Grown outdoors in Panama by people that have been doing it for 200 years or whatever. Yeah, that's what I want. And to get there, it's actually a complex mix of change of federal law and applying and energizing international treaties and agreements that haven't been very well utilized at the international level. It's going to require like this revolution where we've got this sort of, I don't want to pick on Monsanto too much, but I do call it the sort of Monsanto agreements that we've set at the international level from our national government, that the federal government has signed into trade agreements that benefit these huge megalithic corporations, not just huge megalithic corporations, but ones that have sold us on a model of agriculture that requires genetic modification and huge amounts of pesticides. I mean, it's just like this huge, like bad cycle we've gotten caught up in. And that's why we've been working on sustainability, in the UN sustainability goals, because we know that shit's not sustainable. So you start working on sustainability, knowing that it's a brick wall that you're building brick by brick, way out ahead of those people they're going to hit, and they'll stop them. And that's the thing. We want a sustainable future. We want a future where we can get access to all these different plants from all around the world. And a lot of the best weed, I don't know, maybe it's God's way of, playing his hand, or her hand, whatever. But the best weed on earth is grown in many, many kind of third world, developing or undeveloped countries. That's just the way it is. Like along the equator, around the globe, some of the hardcore countries that are really hardcore in many different ways, where some of the best weed is. And we got to fix the shit there, especially the shit we broke as the United States. So we can't just legalize it in Virginia. We can't just legalize it in USA. We got to legalize it on planet Earth. And when I can grow my bud in my yard and I can share it with my friends, no matter where on planet Earth they are, without any fear of reprisal on either end, that's when I'll be done, I suppose.
Thank you, Michael. No, and totally. I've heard people compare it to like homebrew beer. Like no one's gonna go after you if you brew some beer and give it to your buddy, but even like you could fill the back of your truck with a bunch of beer and probably no police really gonna bat an eye these days. But you do that with some cannabis, even if it's hemp, they might charge you for the hemp, and you got to go through all that in several states. Robert, you want to go?
Yeah, I'd like to see cannabis come out of this like coffee. I feel that the way coffee's treated and handled around the US and around the world really is very very on point to what we're looking for as freedom of mankind. Freedom for all humans to enjoy a substance that comes from the earth, from all parts of the earth, in such a way that really there should be no limit to it. Coffee is something that's very unique, sought after, and something that's highly available, highly addictive that we know of, yet at the same time has its own benefits that we know of as well. So my simple answer really is I'd like to see cannabis come out under the coffee model.
That's awesome, and I love that example. Does anyone want to share in this topic?
I really like coffee. Thank you, Rob.
I like the model though, because I know I compared to alcohol for ease of discussion, but that's much better because although cannabis can be intoxicating, it's got medicinal value far and beyond like the 1 or 2 drink a day thing. And it shouldn't be regulated like some narcotic or some crazy thing. I'm not a fan of when people are like, oh, well, we need to make sure it's tested. And I mean, cannabis can go through lab testing and come out all sorts of effed up. I think we all know that. That you grow 10,000 pounds and send a couple grams to the lab of the selection that you chose. I don't know, but that's not really protecting the consumer. That's just adding a step to be like, look, everything's safe, guys. So, but yeah, testing's important. But I think I like the coffee model. I'm sure coffee has some sort of third-party testing or some sort of quality control. Did anybody want to go next on this one? All right, crickets.
Yeah, your crickets. I've heard a lot about coffee, not that in the recent past, about fighting for the rights of the farmers, recognizing the traditional growing techniques and environmental issues, and also on the appellations. I didn't mention the work that we're doing out in California, creating cannabis appellations. So you got appellations for coffee, I'm sure.
Go ahead, Rico. Thanks.
So, speaking of plants and stuff like that, and coffee and whatever, so Pearson brought up fentanyl. Fentanyl's gnarly shit. There's video out there of a San Diego County deputy that just took a whiff of some stuff that they had in a bag, and he OD'd like that. And his partner had to give him Narcan. The responding officers to the officer down had to give him Narcan. He was ODing all the way to the hospital, right? So to compete with coffee, maybe if we can get some agreement for these local coca producers, the coca plant, right, that you chew on, whatever, I could see myself chewing on some coca leaves and whatnot and zinging through my chores and kind of feeling all right, not having to worry about it being laced with fentanyl, you know what I mean? As like a pick-me-up. If we're talking about adult shit, let's talk about adult shit. And I would like to see the coca plant make a comeback in its natural form and given some respect, as well as the people who have traditionally farmed it in the areas that it comes from, you know what I mean?
That's not crazy at all. No, completely. I think it should be all plants and fungi. And I think we're probably all on the same page. I don't want to speak for everyone, but that this single molecule for-profit model is really probably a big reason how we got here, because it's tough to do that with cannabis. And like there's Epidiolex, there's Sativex, there's things in other countries, but it's not the same, and it's super processed, and the side effects of those things are worse because they're isolates. And I'm sure there's applications for isolates. I'm not anti-isolate or even against all pharmaceuticals, but all plants and fungi should be, that's cognitive liberty that I was saying in the chat, that everyone should have access to what they want to mess with their own mind, because there's enough shit going on. Besides that, we should be able to decide all plants and fungi. We should decriminalize all nature. It doesn't mean you're going to go to the 7-Eleven and buy some cocaine. It means the plant, if you grow the plant in your yard, the police won't kill you and your dog. That's what it means.
Yo, I'm just saying, Mr. Popoff, don't threaten me with fucking 7-Eleven cocaine. Like, so again, like that's on them. Don't put all my shit 7-Eleven, and I'll be over there to try your sample real quick. You know what I mean?
What happens when you tell me to moderate these things? You're going to title this "Cocaine at 7-Eleven." Veterans Action Council advocates for wild proposal. No, that's not what we said. People should be able to access plants and not
sponsors. It's like there's nothing to sponsor, lady. We're all volunteers.
So like, who's funding these guys? No. All right.
That's more to listen.
So like the conversation, I mean, if we've given people, other individuals, the right to tell us what we can and can't put in our body, and it's restricting us to the point of becoming immoral criminals in the eyes of the world, or the nation, or the majority that have been fed this trash. I mean, this reefer madness stuff, this complete, I mean, the food pyramid. What do you know? The food pyramid was put out there by large companies to get you to eat more grain, or eat the stuff that they were profiting more from. The fact that we will have no problem buying an expensive car, or spending a ton of money on things that we believe are going to make us happy, and not invest in things that are going to make us, allow for us to have the correct information. Like McDonald's is on the FDA healthy food committee. Coca-Cola is on the beverage committee. When we have to pay for water, and most of the time it's more money than the damn Coca-Cola is. We are dying more from what we are allowed to eat as food than anything else. Heart disease is mainly brought up by, the only thing it's brought up by is high cholesterol food and crap that we're allowed to put in our body. Like, I smoke cigarettes. I'm allowed to smoke cigarettes, and it's it kills more people than, you know, any other substance that you can get over the counter with an ID. Really, don't quote me on that one. I just threw that one out there. But heart disease is there's so many things that's just so. I'm sorry, I'm going off on tangents, but God damn, we need to start thinking about some of this stuff as individuals, and realizing that when money's involved, people are going to try to, some people don't mind harming you for it in non-violent ways, manipulation, stuff like that. So it's a beautiful world.
Thank you, Pearson. Aaron?
I wanted to ask you guys and encourage people in general to ask their doctor how they prescribed pain medication before pain management. What was the policy that you guys followed before there was pain management? Well, it turns out it was invented by these companies that needed to sell pills, right? So it, you know, like, because the doctor won't listen to you because they know more than you. But if you ask them a really, really insightful question about the work that they do every day, and you're like, oh yeah, pain management. Well, what was pain? Like, what was the predecessor to pain management? And then you get them thinking a little bit. So, like, I'll just encourage you, because like the last doctor I did it to, he got pissed at me. But some of them really think about it. Some, like one guy just got mad. I mean, he was a Kaiser doctor, so he's in a hurry anyway. But just, you know, it's, you get a different reaction out of doctors that you don't, you know, like to, well, why can't I use this? You know, like, well, you know, we've got things and stuff, and this is how it is. And I'm like, well, what was it? What do you use before that? You know? So I just want to throw that in there because Pearson, was talking a little bit, it made me think about that. Like, ask your doctor what doctor before pain management.
That's smarter. Ask them what they think about the case you were kind of referring to, like the Slacker family. I remember the name of the family, but not the pharmaceutical company. That's ironic. They get like a slap on the wrist for basically flooding the streets with drugs. And if you're a different type of drug dealer, you'll get killed or you'll get put in jail for life. But if you're a company, like I know you guys are bringing up the Citizens United stuff. It's very real. It's like if you can just pay the fine, you can do anything. And that's not really cool. That's why we're at such a disadvantage, in my opinion.
It's gang shit, man. Whoever's got the strongest gang gets to make the rules.
That's a topic. Yeah, I completely agree. I don't want to get on the tangent, but it's the organized gang with uniforms.
I think we're already on a tangent, but I'm down with tangents and buddy rabbit trails and all kinds of shiny objects. So we literally have the Bloods and the Crips in Washington, D.C. We have the Republican who wear red, and we have the Democratic team who wear blue. And they're two wings of the same bird. You know what I mean? And every now and then you'll find one that you could relate to. And it's amazing when that happens, because it feels like, oh wow, like it is possible for them to do something. It's just like, but then you start thinking, it's like, well, man, but I think as it relates to the cannabis issue specifically, attitudes are changing. The ones that are clinging on are like the ones that are diehard, that are really never go anywhere anyway. We might get one or two of them left, but the country's pretty much already made up our mind. If you look at the polling, you look at the laws that are being enacted, the voters initiative and stuff like that. So I mean, Bloods and Crips, I don't know, maybe bring some vice lords or something up through there in the middle, get the Libertarian Party some strength, you know. But I like how Killer Mike calls them street fraternities. You know, the Yale kids have all these fancy yacht clubs and pool leagues and swim clubs and boat clubs and shit that they're a part of. Like, what does the inner city youth have? Where's the funding for the inner city youth? They don't have any funding except for law enforcement in the area and keeping them in order. Mind your P's and Q's. And if you don't, we got this box over here we throw you in that Pearson was mentioning earlier. And then, like you were mentioned just recently, Alex, you have the upper class, the rich people, and that doesn't know color lines, but is predominantly white, who can pay their way out, grease the skids. Get first in line for court appearances if they have a lawyer, have good representation throughout that could stall the case. Look at what's the Jinx guy from the Netflix series, that creepy old guy. Anyway, look at the Jinx on Netflix. I don't know if it's still available, but that is an insane series. And that, I think, for me, just really puts a spotlight on what we're talking about here specifically, with being able to just pay your way out of it, get the best lawyers, get whatever. But hopefully that's changing. Hopefully people start to snap out of it and pay attention and talk to one another and realize that we're stronger together. But that's my view.
That's how I feel. It's like if these people can basically do anything, hopefully some of them have somewhat good intentions towards cannabis. And I guess, for lack of better examples, I'll go on a limb and say I know a lot of people do not like the Koch brothers for many reasons. However, they've been some of the biggest backers of criminal justice reform over the past several years. Really, they've actively freed thousands of prisoners, and you know, I think if people are going to use their influence and money for good, I think that's something that's positive.
So just one more alibi and I'll be quiet. I swear I'll stop jumping in here. But it dawned on me that I misspoke. Like, you could have a lot of money, but still not be in the club. You could have a lot of money and still get targeted through like COINTELPRO, Or look at Free Ray Ricky Ross, right? Who was that wrapped up in the whole COINTEL or the Iran-Contra bit. And if they don't like you and you got money, it's almost like an extra dig that they just can't stand you, and that you had the gall to think that you could fit in or make your way out of where you come from, that they're going to push it to you that much harder to make an example out of you to anybody who might get those same desires on the street. But what they don't know is as soon as you're gone, you're already backfilled. There's already someone there replacing you. But it's a vicious cycle, regardless of where you're at.
You're more of a threat when you have capital to back you, rather than the guy that's struggling to feed his family, that has been subjected to a lot of the things that a governing body and when else is consent always a thing? Once you give consent, you can't take that consent back. You can't say I don't want this to happen anymore. The consent of the governed. Once it becomes governed, that means that they're doing things that you are with it in itself. Consent, that would mean that we were following, and we are in line with the rules because we believe in what's going on. Once you say no, I don't want to do that, then you're governed. You're forced into things that you're not willing and giving consent for. It's an oxymoron. Consent of the governed. You can only be governed if the only reason to be governed is you're not going along with it. Weird.
Well, that's just civil disobedience. It's like I've spoken to people about supporting home grow and how to push advocacy, and I'm like, what if everyone just grows anyways? Well, a lot of people would have a lot of issues.
Well,
but that's
the thing. I don't mean to cut you off, but Rico brought up Santa Claus. Would Christmas still work without Santa Claus? Could we still pull off Christmas without Santa Claus?
I mean, my last name is St. Nicholas, so I'm just going to say no. That's impossible.
If we didn't believe in Santa Claus, we couldn't Christmas wouldn't work. Similar to society not being able to work if we weren't strong-armed to rank and file. But I mean, the thing is that we're scared into believing that there is no human morals without a armed a possibility of an armed group of individuals coming to stop us from doing something that is nonviolent. That's my big issue. If you're not like, why would government be needed in order to stop something that isn't affecting anybody else but that individual? Would rape be not okay? Would rape be okay if we didn't have a government? Just because there's a government doesn't make that okay. It doesn't make murder okay. If just because the government finds it immoral, we also find it immoral as human beings. And it's once we stop believing in that authority, it doesn't have any power. Santa Claus.
Thank you, Jason. I agree. Have any of you guys read The Anatomy of the State? I recommend it. It's probably not in line with everyone's political views, but it's the same type of concept that how can someone just say we're the biggest, strongest, so we're the government, we derive authority, and we get to say what plants you can and can't use. That's against the Constitution these same people put forward. So I completely agree, but this publication is free and it explains all that. It's like, what other entity is capable of doing this and regulating things this way? It doesn't make sense. If you actually think about it, like you said, Pearson, did anyone want to go? And the question was still, we were still on, what does ideal legalization look like?
Utopia.
Yeah, past the utopia. What's like a realistic, let's use smart goals here. And let's wrap up within the next 5-10 minutes, if that's cool with everybody, as we creeping on 2 hours. Is that good with everybody? I'm the worst moderator, but I think I've kept it together. We're still here.
Well, you're not
Great.
crying yet, so we're good. We got that going for us.
Yeah. Does anybody have a question that they want to put forward? If they don't want to answer this.
Yeah. Before we got 4 more minutes. What has been the most exciting thing for you guys personally? Just each one of you this past week. Give us a sentence each, and we'll leave off with forgetting about my anarchic capitalist thoughts. So, how's that sound? Tony, you want to go?
I'll go. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I'm really excited to talk to Professor Noam Chomsky on the 3rd of September. Speaking of anarchy, so I don't know. I'm a little intimidated. I hope our questions are worthy. I'm also down to just shut up and let them talk. But that's my woohoo for right now.
Anybody?
Robert? I'll call people out because it was my question, right?
I would have to say being asked to teach at the University of Cincinnati on social justice for a day for their class, as well as being asked to speak at a event for adult use here in Ohio by a legislative office within the last week.
Right on. Tony.
Yeah, I got several things in Louisiana exciting this week that happened. August 1st was enactment of a half ounce decrim, 14 grams or less. No matter how many times in Louisiana you get arrested for it, it's $100 fine. That's, it's a big movement. We're just thankful for it. Of course, we'd like to see no arrests at all, but the other thing happened in New Orleans. The city council in New Orleans unanimously voted to preemptively expunge any kind of arrest for misdemeanor cannabis possession in the city of New Orleans. As like it's already expunged even before the police officer gives you a ticket, so they proactively fighting the drug war with that ordinance in New Orleans, and it'll just it'll help. I think there's a lot of failure on a state level when you see these moves on a city council that bypassing state law to get around some oppressive legislation that can't get changed at the Capitol. You see these city councils acting and bypassing it. That shows a failure of leadership at the state level. So it's good to see action on a council level, and we need to see the same thing on nationally, because it's a failure of our national government to allow all these states to have wonderful medical programs with great success, and they're not moving on it nationwide. So hopefully we'll see some movements this year up there, but that's what I'm excited about. And then Louisiana will have flower added to their medical program on January 1st. So some good things to look forward to.
Puff Daddy. Did you already go? Darren? Try to call on you,
Uh,
Plouffe.
No. What I'm excited about this week, you said?
Well, originally was what was exciting this past week, like, but yeah, it has graduated to the future. So
Yeah, so
either or.
two things. I got 2 people a job in cannabis today. So that was pretty neat to help people do that. And it's not really something that I do normally. So that was pretty neat. And this Friday I'm going with my son to an Angels game, and we got front row seats to watch Otani with the Angels. So that's me.
Alex?
Sure. So I'm most excited for being more involved in this group. I know, like I keep saying, I'm new and I hadn't participated as much. And I appreciate the camaraderie and story sharing amongst us. And that's like what we talk about with cannabis. It's not just everyone wants to get high or some BS. There's medicinal value, not just chronic pain, mental health, but when you come together and talk to other people that are like-minded and we're working on the same stuff, because that's what we know as vets, regardless of what we did in the military, that's a commonality. And then I'm learning how to home grow in my planter and flower, and I'm super excited. And I don't have to like look over my shoulder or be too concerned about it like I would elsewhere, where I may or may not confirm or deny if I had grown it. But it's a lot better for me right now. But I want to learn and be able to teach other vets how to grow, because like we talked about, it's not that easy. It's a weed. Yeah, well, you're going to grow some bad stuff if you don't know what you're doing. So it's a learning process. It's something that I wanted to learn. So I can use it medicinally, but so I can help teach others. And I'm looking forward to the progress that the group's making already, and for the more to come. So thank you.
Cool. I'm excited about teaching myself, well, YouTube's teaching me gold panning and gold recovery and hard rock, honing in my my makeshift sluice, and it's working pretty good. But I wanted to give Michael Crowds the last word, because we very good chance we wouldn't be here if there wasn't his outstanding leadership and dedication to what's been going on.
Oh, thanks, man. Hey, it's funny. I swear to you, I was going to say this already before what you said just a minute ago. But yeah, I've had a lot of fun recently with my treasure hunting. So I'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, we just got the word the other day, our first cannabis commission meeting, and the commission in Virginia is going to be the entity that's going to set up the regulations for legal cannabis market. So that first meeting is coming up in a week or so, and we'll get to actually see these commissioners face to face and have that first meeting. And it is pretty exciting. Also, we're going to have a veterans equity meeting this Sunday. It's our second equity meeting. We got Nick Eastley's coming in, and he's helped create a little draft of a one-pager to help us get started. And that's, he's kind of a new addition to our council to help us work on this stuff. Who we've worked with already on the past on medical marijuana stuff, but this is kind of new on veterans equity, getting us into the industry. And I'm ready to roll my sleeves up and get good law in Virginia, but I'm also ready to get into the industry, finally handle weed. It's like 25, 30 years I've been working on weed, hypothetically. It's legal now. I can touch weed. Hey, we're going to do some hands-on weed stuff. That's going to be great. That's exciting. It really is exciting. And then, I go to flea markets and garage sales and stuff like that. I'm looking for the holy grail, like a 300-year-old cannabis book or something. But in the meantime, I find little gold earrings or something like that might be cool. And the last couple, week or two, has been really phenomenally cool. I found a gold watch for $15. I found a set of not cufflinks, but they're the size of cufflinks. They're jade and gold earrings. They were really cool. And, they were like $10 at a tag sale. So I've been having a lot of fun. I was showing these guys earlier some of my finds, but you know, it's like treasure hunting. And it's funny too. And I'll leave you one last little thought. It's so funny because over time I've noticed pattern that you can spend the exact same amount of time at garage sales, tag sales, thrift stores that you spend with a pan in the water, panning for gold, and you'll come up with on average the same amount of return. And you have the same chance of maybe finding a big nugget, but you probably won't. I mean, the similarities are outstanding. It's really funny.
We should talk offline about this.
Much love, guys.
Alex, why don't you sign us off? You've been such a wonderful Sam. I don't know, A10 might have a run for his money right now.
Great job, Alex. Thanks for jumping in there, dude.
You got it, Rico. All right, I guess we're closing up today. I don't know if there's anything we're supposed to say, so if there is, too bad.
Semper Fidelis.
Otherwise, thank you, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, everyone out there watching. Thank you for joining us.
Be good.
Thank you, Tony.
See you guys. I'm going to get dinner.